many political players at the time to ensure that their countries got their independence, but also countries that had dictators like ours, that they could actually be able to organize themselves and overthrow the same. He is a man that you cannot talk about without smiling. But now we remember him 25 years later. What has happened since his demise? But we also have to remember some of his achievements in Tanzania. He worked so that the likes of Samia Suluhu could run. That is Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Uganda. Now, joining me for this conversation is Madam Nima Nyerere Drago, representing Mwalimu Julius Nyerere family, and also Dr. Chisembo Ronex Tendo, who is the group CEO, Africa Mashariki First. First of all, what does even Africa Mashariki First mean? But before I go into that, good morning, Mom.
Good morning to you.
I am honored to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
And good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming through. It's always beautiful to have conversations about Africa's most gallant sons. And Mwalimu Julius Nyerere is among those. Yes, so his name, you cannot speak about Africa, you cannot even speak about Uganda where it is today, minus mentioning his name. Now, I understand that you're here, that there will be the Africa Mashariki Fest in Tanzania. There will also be the remembrance of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and also the commemoration of 25 years of the existence of the East African community. Tell us about these events and why they are important to everyone in East Africa, in Tanzania, and to our viewers.
Thank you so much. As you rightly stated, on the 14th of October this year, we are going to be commemorating 25 years since the demise of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the founding father of Tanzania and also a great Pan-African. Equally, on the 30th of November, which is also 2024, the East African community, the revived one, will be making 25 years. So as Africa Mashariki Fest, for starters, this is a regional youth organization affiliated to the East African Community Secretariat, and ours is to promote the integration gospel to the ordinary citizens using art and sports. So we saw it relevant that we go and converge at the ancestral home of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere in Butiama in Tanzania. And the reason for our going there basically is to have a reflection focusing on his enduring legacy and values. Then we also have to sit down and take stock of the 25 years of the East African community. What have we achieved? What are the challenges? And what could be the practical way forward? So basically, that's why we are calling for the Butiama pilgrimage to have a talk around the future of East Africa.
Okay, now, should I call you Mrs. Michago? So, Madam Nima, I understand Mr. Chisembo here has given us a roundup about the feast and why you will be going to Tanzania come the 14th and also the 30th. But I would like to understand the Africa Mashariki Fest even further, and I would like to know what inspired the creation of the feast and how it aligns with Nyerere's vision for Tanzania and also for East Africa.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting us and for being here this morning. It's a pleasure and honor to take part in this program. Mwalimu Nyerere, as you rightly introduced him, he needs very little introduction. He's a statesman that is known worldwide for his contribution to humanity. And that legacy lives on. and the youth that Kisembo represent, who have taken the leadership or the lead to promote the legacy of Mwalimu amongst the youth, I think it's something really commendable because it comes from the youth. And Mwalimu's legacy has to be handed over to the youth. The youth have to carry it on forward for the future generations. Mwalimu believed in unity, in togetherness, because coming from a family of a chief, he lived within the community of so many brothers and sisters and mothers, because, you know, the chief had many, many wives. And that nurtured inside of him this zeal or this desire for a system, an ideology that would base itself on this African way of life. And that lifestyle or his upbringing, it really crafted the person that he became. As you know, he went to study, he went to the UK, and then he came back. And while there, he started to realize that there were rights that we as a nation were not getting, being under colonialism at the time. But he went beyond just rights for freedom for Tanganyika at the time. He stood for the rights of the entire humanity. Wherever there was any deprivation or denial of those rights, he stood for. And he denied himself. He denied his own rights as a father, as a family man, as an individual within his own private setting, to provide for humanity. And I think this is a legacy that we have the moral obligation to see to it that it is carried forward for future generations. And East Africa Fest has carried that. And I really commend very much my brother Kisembo for the zeal and the spirit that he has in him to take it to future generations, because they are the ones that will carry the future of Africa.
That's right.
Yes, so we have the obligation, my generation has the obligation to pass it on.
Okay.
And this is how you pass it on, by talking about him, talking about him in a way that people will feel and hear, you know, who he was, what he stood for, and what how it relates to today's way of life.
I hear what you're saying, and by so doing that, it is not now history. It is something that keeps on going and ongoing, generation to generation. We are not keeping it in a museum or in a library somewhere. We are living the actual truth of his existence. Now, Dr. Kisembo, the Africa Mashariki Fest, how has it contributed to the social and cultural integration of East Africans?
Thank you so much. Actually, coincidentally, as we look at the celebration of 25 years of the community, our organization, on the 8th of October this year, we are going to be marking 10 years in existence. And we want to thank God for a number of achievements that our organization has registered. And key among them is championing the flying of the East African flag during the Olympics in Brazil in 2016. You know, when we get to these international games, each country sends a team. And then for us, our thinking is, since we are talking about the unity of the partner states, can we do it rather different by sending a single team to these games? So in 2016, one of the key achievements was that whereas Team Uganda, Team Kenya, and other countries went to Brazil for the Olympics, we wrote to His Excellency the President and requested support to be able to lead a team of young people from across East Africa to go to Brazil and carry the East African flag. And during that time, if you may recall, our very own Stephen Kiprotich was the defending champion in the marathon. But when Eliud Kipchoge won the marathon in Rio, we joined together and we had the East African flag, Kiprotich, Eliud Kipchoge, and other East Africans. that moment that the win for Kenya is a win for East Africa. Because as Mwalimu actually brings it to us, that it's just being myopic, if I may, that we want to operate in silos. When you look at tourism, for example, when a tourist comes and lands in Nairobi, Kenya, and goes to Tsavo National Park, goes to Mombasa, shortly they will take a flight to Entebbe to come and visit the source of the Nile. They'll go to Machishoni Falls. So we are interconnected. So we just need to focus on promoting whatever is within our region collectively. Now, away from that, we've worked closely with the beauty queens, Miss Uganda, Miss Kenya, Miss Tanzania, all these beauty queens in the region. In the year 2015, there was an attempted coup in Burundi during the time of the late Pierre Nkurunziza. So our organization organized a peace run in Bujumbura. The message here was to engage the young people who had become violent, and the international community had branded Burundi a failed state. So we went to on the streets of Bujumbura, we organized a peace run, and all these beauty queens and other young people from across the region converged in Bujumbura. We had a run, we engaged the young people, and I want to thank UBC because we had a team from here that came and covered this event live. So we have been looking at art and sport as our special purpose vehicles to promote this. So we have cultural galas, we have dialogues, we have sports engagements like marathons. Here in Kololo we've so far held 2 in Mombasa. Now, when Tanzania made 60 years, they were celebrating a Diamond Jubilee of their independence. So we organized and converged in Tanzania, 12 countries from ES and SADC. And we are saying we have a debt and a duty to salute the efforts of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, having championed the fight for the independence of most of the African states. So we were in Tanzania to join our comrades to celebrate 60 years of the independence. And we had quite a number of engagements in Zanzibar. We came to Tanzania mainland, all the way to Mozambique. And back here, we salute the achievements of the ruling party, the NRM. But you know this very well, that the NRM ideology, philosophy, and line of thinking is mothered by the ruling party in Tanzania, Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM, which Mwalimu Nyerere is the founding father. So we owe it to Tanzania, we owe it to Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, and in the future, as we look forward to marking 25 years of the community, we have a question to ask ourselves. When Tanzania got independence, on record, Mwalimu Nyerere chose to delay the celebration of that independence and said, wait a minute, let's wait for Kenya and Uganda to also gain theirs. So now we can form one country called East Africa.
So it was his vision.
Yes.
Wow, interesting. Now, Madam Nima, I would like for us to talk more about the feast, but before we get into that, yes, we have mentioned a few of the achievements of the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. But from your perspective as a Tanzanian, as someone who probably knew him closely, what are some of those aspects of him that people need to always remember, even this day and many years from now?
Yes, thank you. There are many things. His contribution is tremendous to the entire world. And he lived what he believed in. So his life was really a reflection of what he believed in.
Yes.
First of all, he was a very simple man. He was a very simple man, and he lived a very simple life. He never accrued wealth for himself, as most people know. But he went beyond. Tanzania was a poor nation during his time, and the little that we had, he did not hesitate from sharing it with other nations where he felt that they needed support to achieve freedom, which is what he believed in. Freedom of expression, freedom of belonging to any group, any association, freedom to work and to be paid for whatever you provide as a job. And freedom in many, many areas, which are the natural rights that are given to you by God. He believed in those and he stood by it. And so at home he was a very simple man, as you know, I mentioned earlier. Yeah. He lived that belief that you need to interact with everyone around you. It doesn't matter what your status is. It is not about your social standing or your economic standing or your political affiliation or your religious or ethnic affiliation. He was everybody's president, if I may put it that way.
Okay.
And so for the countries where Tanzania contributed into supporting their independence movement, Tanzania did not just contribute by advocating it on international platforms, you know, of negotiations and things like that, but it provided physical, material support to these countries.
Yes.
And this has created a friendship, or fraternity rather, I should call it a fraternity rather than a friendship,
yes,
with all these nationals of these nations, with Tanzania. So today I come to Uganda, I feel I'm at home. I go to Kenya, I feel I'm at home, because Tanzania delayed its independence for those nations to get theirs. So you feel there's more to it than just the ideologies that are maybe normally defended upon platforms and things like that. It went beyond just the ideology. It was really about sharing the little that Tanzania had. It shared with Mozambique. Today I feel I'm a sister of any Mozambican. When I see a Mozambican, I would go to them because of what we share. We share a lot in our past. So that is who he was. I mean, he went beyond, and at home he was very simple. But there's one anecdote I would like to share.
Okay.
Just to express or to define who he was. As simple as he was, I remember there was a time I was doing my homework, and he came and said to me, "Come with me." And I didn't know where we were going, so I followed him. And we walked out of the presidential residence. He walked out of the house, out of the gate, and then the guards realized that he was walking out of the gate. So they started running behind him to follow because, you know, he's a head of state, he's an institution, you don't just walk out like that. But it was very simple. He walked out, and at the time, the house, or the presidential residence, did not have many houses as you would see today. So it was very, you know, it was mostly inhabited by the natives of the area, the Makondes who were there. So he wanted to go out and talk to these people, you know. That's who he was. His motorcade was only 3 cars. He only had a police car in the front, his own car, and security behind.
Could that be because life was more safer then as compared to today?
Probably, but I believe if he were here today, I believe he would still stick to what he believed in. And I think he believed also that if you provide for you provide for the people, and they hear you because you communicate with them, they see your actions, they see that you're there to serve the people. He was not fearful of the people.
Because he was one and the same with them. Now, as a history student, this is in my interest, but I believe that there is a viewer there who is also a history student. The Ujamaa policy that he introduced in Tanzania and its achievements. I'm curious to know, is Tanzania still on those lines, or they veered a bit away from that?
That's a very good question. I think to answer that question, I would look at China, for example, today. China has gone to, you would say, state capitalism in action, but on paper it's still a communist country. And I think Tanzania is the same in the sense that CCM, which is the ruling party, has been there since it's the founding of the nation. Its ideology, or rather its creed, is Azimio la Arusha, which is really what carries the policy, the ideology of Ujamaa and self-reliance. So I would say it is still very much the bedrock, if I may call it that way, of the political system of the country. But when it comes now to the implementation of it, things have changed.
Things have changed.
The world has taken a different turn. I think the geopolitics have changed. Now that we have moved to new dimensions where it's more private sector led, you know, the economy is more private sector led as it is in Tanzania, and which is a good thing because the economy has to be led by the private sector. But I think there are areas where we need to go back and reflect, to go back and ask ourselves, have we departed? Are we still on the path, you know, of the founding principles of what made the nation state of Tanzania, sorry. Tanzania.
Still one and the same.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Chisembo, coming back to you, let's go back to the fest that you're organizing on the 14th of October. What are some of the challenges you've experienced organizing such a huge feast over East Africa is no longer Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, like we used to know it. It's now more countries, and with that, I believe, comes a few challenges here and there. What are some of those that you've experienced?
Well, thank you so much. Allow me, first of all, allude briefly to what my sister has been submitting.
Okay.
That what informs part of our mission to go to Butiama on the 14th of October is that genuine reflection, that dialogue, to take stock of the 25-year journey of the East African community, but as well reflect on the enduring legacy of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. As she put it, are we still focused on the journey or we veered off? And if we veered off, how do we get back on track so that the ultimate can be achieved? As you rightly stated, organizing these regional engagements is very challenging. First of all, we are a voluntary, non-partisan youth organization. We believe in the future of our region being the integration of East Africa. The East African community, right from 1967 to 77, these are 10 years. Now, these 10 years of the East African community saw a lot of achievements realized during the leadership of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the late Jomo Kenyatta, and the Dr. Milton Obote. The first community lasted 10 years before it broke apart, and the achievements registered then are enormous. As students of history, you remember that at some point, the East African community had a single currency.
That's right.
The East African community had a unified airline and airspace. The East African community had the posts, we had the railway network, we had quite a lot in common as opposed to what we are seeing today. Now, here's the challenge. The East African community, the revived one, 1999 to 2024, 25 years down the road, from 3 partner states to now 8. The question is, what have we achieved in 25 years vis-a-vis what was achieved in 10 years of the defunct ESC?
Now, when you look at, and thank you so much for juxtapositioning these two, when you look at them in your personal perspective, the achievements of the revived East African community vis-a-vis the defunct, where do we stand?
Well, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Frankly speaking, we have a lot to do as the revived community.
Yes.
Quite a lot to do. And that informs why we are going to the ancestral home of Mwalimu, where he's buried, where he grew up, to have a candid discussion around the dream, which is our future, the East African community. Currently, the community is faced with quite a number of challenges, ranging from mistrust, lack of commitment from the leadership at strategic level to commit to the ideals of the community. Yesterday, I made a tweet on my X handle where I stated that those leaders who are not committed to the integration process are committing treason. I got calls from different stakeholders, and someone actually said that it's not only treason, but it is also a genocide to the future generations. What happens now, we appreciate the leadership And we want to salute President Yoweri Museveni for championing the revival of the East African community. In 1999, we had 3 countries. Shortly, we got Rwanda and Burundi joining to make them 5. Then we had South Sudan, we had now Congo, we have Somalia, now a total of 8, as you can see them here. Now, these 8 countries, 1, the market has widened. Granted, that's a given. 2, the strategic security in our region is in some way or the other, we need to first ask ourselves, why do regions integrate? Why do communities integrate? But as I conclude on that,
yes.
we need to be honest here and say we have a lot to do now. This community, the current one, has a lot to do to achieve what was achieved in 10 years of the previous.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chisembo. And unfortunately, time is of the essence, so we will end our conversation here. But we have been walking down memory lane, remembering the achievements of Tanzania's first president, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, but also looking at the Africa Mashariki Fest that is going to take place in Tanzania on the 14th of October 2024. We'll be remembering 25 years after he died, but also commemorating 25 years of the revived East African community that Mr. Chisembo says has a lot of work to do in order for it to even be compared to the defunct East African community. But we can't go any further than this. I've been having this conversation with Madame Nima Nyerere Drago, who was representing the Nyerere family, and also Mr. Dr. Chisembo Ronex Tendo, who is the Group CEO, Africa Mashariki Fest. Thank you so much for watching Good Morning Uganda. Irene Allen Namisango is right here to give us the Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express updates.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by.
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't go low. You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondolo. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It's a great pleasure to know that you are watching UBC TV. My name is Erin Alena Misango, and this is the GMU Tourism Express, the time that we talk about matters that concern Uganda's tourism. Now, tourism is currently the fastest growing industry in the country, but also the whole world. So it is just important that as a national broadcaster, we get issues, we get matters, talk about them, talk about the attractions, the trends, the travel news, accommodation, anything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. But also, we bring in different voices to see that we get other voices, we get other perceptions from different people about Uganda's tourism, about the different segments in Uganda's tourism, to break the narrative that tourism is not only for maybe the staff of Ministry of Tourism or Uganda Tourism Board staff, or maybe just the ministers of tourism, but everyone is business. And people are passionately working in the tourism sector. People are passionately investing in the tourism sector because they feel, yes, it is somehow the cash cow of Uganda's economy. So it is just important for you that you always tune in. If you have some interest, even if it is just the slightest interest in the tourism sector, this will get you, motivate you, and inspire you to really invest and get more time to learn about the tourism sector of the country. And well, even all the beauties that lie in here, Uganda is the pearl of Africa for a reason, because there are different attractions, there are very many beautiful features that dwell in the country. But well, today we are talking about something that is kind of unique, but it is not so fully exploited, and that is sports tourism. Like I said yesterday, that Uganda's tourism, for us to promote it to the greater heights that we need, we have to be with different products, different tourism products that are going to boost the country's tourism, to attract so many tourists to the country. And now sports tourism is one of the products that we need to develop, because currently it is not so much exploited in our country. It is kind of still taken to be maybe informal, but we need to exploit the opportunities that come with sports tourism. Talk about whitewater rafting, cycling, mountain climbing, swimming, our soccer, netball. Like, we have a lot that we need to capitalize on to see that we promote sports tourism in the country. But well, with me, I have an expert that has been doing great work in promoting sports tourism, and we are going to explore the potential of this particular segment in tourism to see how can we together capitalize on the potential of sports tourism in the country. And the guest that I have in the studios with me is Mr. Walgembe Oscar Suna, the founder of Nile Golf Cup. I think you've heard about this. This year he held the 4th edition, and it is really working well in promoting indigenous tourism. Oscar, A very good morning.
Good morning, Irene. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
And really excited about the sports tourism in Uganda. Thank you very much for the invite.
That is nice. Oscar, as someone who has been into this industry to try to capitalize on sports to promote Uganda's tourism, particularly in Jinja, where you've been holding most of your golf tournaments, we need to understand how can we capitalize on our beautiful landscapes. Talk about Lake Victoria, River Nile, Mountain Elgon, Renzori. How can we capitalize on this to see that we promote Uganda's sports tourism?
Yeah, thank you very much, Irene. For me, very important is we need to be intentional as we engage our companies or government bodies that are in charge of tourism and different sectors. So we need to come up with policies. We need to come up with guidelines on health and safety. For example, if it is rafting on the Nile, we need to have health and safety considered, because in case of anything happening, we need to be covered. We've just concluded the Renzori Marathon. Just behind the marathon is the Renzori Mountain. So that's also another feature.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to be intentional, make the policies and guidelines. 2, we need to sell Uganda beyond the big 5.
Okay.
At the moment, we are mainly looking at the national parks, but I believe we have a lot that we can do more than the national parks in terms of sports. We have Lake Victoria, we have the River Nile, we have the Renzori, we have Elgon, like you've mentioned. These are all products that we can align with. Renzori has been taken up now that we have a marathon, but we could do a lot in Elgon. We're just next to Kenya. Kenyans are really doing well in cycling. So another product could come up in terms of Renzori. So again, regionally, we need to look at our regional dissections and say, what can we do, for example, in Karamoja? Did you know that the biggest cycling event in Uganda is in Karamoja? It's happening a few months down.
Okay.
So somebody has thought about Karamoja, exploring Karamoja on a bicycle. You know,
wow,
how about
nice.
that? So that's what we need to do. 2, we need to engage corporate companies, because sports needs investment. You know, without investment, we're not able to do certain things.
Yeah, Oscar, one of the most, or maybe I think the most famous sport that we have in the country is soccer. Maybe also rugby is coming up, and netball, boxing. But how can we turn these traditional or indigenous sports in the country to see that we promote or we attract international tourists? I remember, I think early this year, Rwanda had some tournament where so many Ugandans went to Rwanda for that soccer game. But how many people do we have, how many East Africans do we have to come in and watch maybe KCCA or Villa, these local, how can we turn those?
Yeah, first, you know, charity begins at home. We won't get Tanzanians coming here to watch Villa if we are not watching Villa.
True.
So the teams need to look beyond the 4 corners of the pitch and create products. If I'm going to Mbarara for a soccer game, beyond soccer, what else?
Yeah.
You know, sell to me something beyond soccer. So if I'm not really a hard soccer fan, you could say you're going to buy a ticket to the game and you get into to Lake Mburo as part of the product. So then me, who isn't so much into soccer, will come simply because of Lake Mburo. You know, so products need to be broadened to include people that are not directly related to those particular sports.
As someone who has been into those sports now, what are some of the challenges? Why isn't sports tourism or even sports attracting numbers to turn them into tourists?
I'll be honest, we need to clean our sports. I need to be comfortable to go to an Express versus Villa game with my kid and wife, knowing that I'm not going to be pelted with stones because I don't know which team lost. I'm not going to be thrown funny words into my ears when I'm with my family. Look at the Premier League. People go to the Premier League with their kids 2-3 years, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to clean up the sports. It needs to be family friendly. Let it be soccer, rugby, netball, everything needs to be family friendly, because without the little ones, there is no sustainability. So clean the sports, that's part one. Two, broaden the products
Yeah.
so that more people come in. Three, again, we need to market ourselves vigorously to the international community to tell them we have this, we have this, we have this. Just like we're doing with the gorillas. Everywhere we go, we're talking gorillas, gorillas, gorillas. Now let's also say gorillas and the Nile, gorillas and Rwenzori, gorillas and Elgon, gorillas and Karamoja, you know. So what people know, because reality is people don't know much about Uganda.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find a European coming to Africa, and Uganda is the first destination.
True.
We are usually the second or third destination. People come either to Kenya or Tanzania and South Africa, then Uganda.
How do you think that we can use, because we should say that currently tourism is so much, actually Uganda's tourism is so much thriving on the digital spaces. How do you think we can use the digital marketing to promote sports tourism in Uganda?
Yeah, I think in that area, again, we need the professionals to come into the sports. We need to start specializing. Are you a digital marketeer? Can you go and convince Villa or Heathens or, I don't know, a cycling team that, listen, I can bring this value on the table? We need to specialize. Are you a gym expert? That you can provide the gymming side of the business. So specialization is important, because at the end of the day, we need to bring in that technical knowledge in the different spheres. Sports is broader than just going on the pitch and doing this and that. Our players need to be, we need to have a machinery around them to build them from just simply being people going on the pitch, but people that companies can align with to push their brands.
Yeah.
You look at the Messis and the Ronaldos, it's not by mistake. They have people around them.
They've also capitalized on their digital
Yes, on their digital space. So if you are a soccer player in Uganda and you're not on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, who are you when Ronaldo is there?
True.
You know? So we need to show our players these examples so that they learn from them. It's no longer, you know, rocket science that you need to be on social media.
My second last question for you. What are some of the sports that you think that we can capitalize on now currently in Uganda? But those sports that we can also line with tourism.
Yes, cycling. In Europe, they don't cycle in winter. We have almost the year round.
Yeah.
Golf. In Europe again, winter, they're off. We have the whole year.
True.
You know, rugby. We have the muscles, why not? Boxing, we have a long history in boxing, you know, so let's also push boxing. Traditional games, we have Omweso. I played Dul in school, it's unique, you know.
Yeah.
We need to look at even those traditional games that we played when we were young and bring out something unique, you know, that is ours. We can own it 100%.
Oscar, AFCON is here. Do you think Uganda is ready for this?
The question is, are you ready to tap into AFCON opportunities?
Okay, yeah.
So I would say personally, in my view, yes, we are ready. But again, FUFA has done their job. They put in the bid. They brought the games to us. Now it's us to start looking at what opportunities are there. But those opportunities are only available if you are an entity. However good you're going to be in whatever you do, and you're not an entity that they can work with, they'll throw you out.
True.
So we need to be entities. We go and look for opportunities, whether it's marketing or providing transport services. They're not going to work with a street person. You know, we are taxi guys in Entebbe, so let's do this. No, you need to be an entity. You need to be having the requirements of minimum requirements of a company to be able to benefit from these opportunities. But for me, I believe we are ready. We just have to provide an experience and a unique one.
Thank you so much, Oscar. It was nice having you. And for sports tourism, it is a new product that I feel even Uganda Tourism Board, the Ministry of Tourism, they've not yet so much capitalized on. Yet we have the potential to promote, because when you talk about the adventure activities that we have in Ginger, whitewater rafting, tubing, are there guidelines for these? Are they qualified swimmers, people that we work with? So we need to find that, we need to see that we have the guidelines to promote these sports as much as we want people to come in to engage in them, but we also need to come up with the reliable policies, supportive policies. The government needs to engage so that this is a product that we can together develop and see that it also attracts in more numbers of tourists into the country. Well, that is it that we had for you today. And my name is Erin Alena Misango. See you tomorrow. Coming up is Joan Paul Sonk with a business update.
Good morning again, and thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. It's now time for the GMU Business Updates. This very morning, I am Joan Paul Sonko. Yesterday I was giving you updates on the Chinatown presence in the country just a few days since its official opening on Saturday. Now, many of the traders within Kampala are not happy or are sharing their sentiments that do not seem friendly, but rather of discontentment. This morning, as I was coming to work as early as 6, there was a queue already at Chinatown in Lugogo. Now, many Ugandans believe that what is at Chinatown may seem to be a discount, sort of. If you remember so well the days of the Black Fridays, where different companies and different service providers in the month of November normally give back to their customers and discounts. So many of the Ugandans feel that maybe they should use this opportunity. And as we speak now, if you are around Lugogo, you can as well be able to observe. And yesterday, the atmosphere or the environment at Chinatown was even more intense and packed up more than it was on Saturday and Sunday. Now, many Ugandans are opting for Chinatown because it's offering affordable products. And of course, when you look at some of the taglines of Chinatown, is that there is a satisfaction and there is an element of cheap in there. So many Ugandans feel it's there. Now, we start off with our first report because traders are urging the government to reduce on the taxation on the imported goods to enable fair competition with the retail investors. This call comes in the wake of the opening of the Chinatown superstore, which traders fear will negatively impact their businesses due to its low prices. Now, as you approach the Lugogo Mall, the scene is unusually busy with crowds queuing up to access the Chinatown store, drawn by the relatively cheap prices of the commodities on their shelves. Many of these commodities are actually commodities that are manufactured and produced in China. Now, in the days following the opening of the Chinatown stores in Uganda, traders requested the government to consider reducing taxes on imported goods because it's now unfair to them because many are importing these goods from China and they also have to pay the taxes, and yet some of these traders are having fair taxes or are having tax holidays. Now, while the store's proprietors deny claims of selling substandard or low quality products, traders are calling for government to have some restriction of Chinatown's operation in regards to manufacturing. Now, with the stores closed for the second consecutive day, the management pledged to cooperate with the police and adhere to standard operating procedures for reopening because when you look at the crowds that were in Chinatown as of Saturday, Sunday and Monday, the entire stores were fully packed, and of course on Monday evening there was a temporary closure during that time to try and manage the overcrowding within Chinatown. Now, given the discounted prices, it remains to be seen how the stores will fare in the coming days, especially considering the history of similar stores closing in Uganda. Yesterday I was giving you a whole list of some of the retail stores, or foreign retail stores that have graced Uganda, and many of them were actually operating in the same area where Chinatown is. Speaking of which, Game, which was one of those that was close to Lugogo also, or which was occupying the same space that Chinatown is occupying. Now you also look at different retail stores like Nakumat, Tuskies, you look at you know, the days of ShopRite. These are some of the many chain stores that we've been having in Uganda. Some of them stood the test of time of about 10 to 15, 20 years, and then many couldn't make 20, but at least a decade or so was something, the time many spent in the country. Now the bigger question is how far or how long will Chinatown spend in the country? But the most important bit about everything here, according to many of the Ugandans, is the fact that they are offering cheaper commodities. Now, away from Chinatown, we turn our focus onto coffee conservation because the Uganda Coffee Development Authority has launched the Coffee Deforestation Free campaign. Now, this is particularly aimed at promoting sustainable coffee production and complying with the European Union's regulation on deforestation-free products. Now, the European Union is having a new agenda, and this particular agenda is that if you are exporting coffee, you have to make sure that the land where you grow your coffee was not rather demarcated or was not due to deforestation. You have to make sure that the piece of land where you're growing your coffee was not given to you, or you did not acquire that land after cutting down trees. Now, the initiative is seeking to reduce the European Union's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions and protect human rights, and the Coffee Deforestation Free campaign is a response to global concerns over deforestation and its impact on climate change. As one of the world's leading coffee exporters, you get to realize that Uganda is taking proactive steps to align with international standards, particularly those set by the European Union. Now, the European Union remains the largest destination for Uganda's coffee, accounting for over 60% of the annual exports that we do have as a country. Now, for this reason, the European Union introduced regulations on deforestation. There is also deforestation-free products to mitigate the market's impact on global forest degradation and biodiversity loss. Then this initiative also is aiming to enhance traceability in the coffee supply chain, and then also ensuring that the consumers can be confident that the coffee they enjoy is produced without contributing to deforestation. And well, lastly, we look at the Agricultural Expo because the Uganda Manufacturers Association has unveiled and launched the 30th UMA Trade Fair. This is the annual trade fair that normally happens at the UMA Showgrounds in Lugogo. Now, this particular one of this year is scheduled to happen on the 2nd of October till the 10th of the same month, 2024, at the same venue of the UMA Showgrounds. Now, the leaders of the associations of different traders within the country, and of course the major umbrella body of the Uganda Manufacturers Association, are committed to promoting agriculture products and training farmers in value addition and agro-processing during the same trade fair. Now, the trade fair, which is set for October 2nd to the 10th of October this very year, aims to promote and market locally made products and help local manufacturers scale up production through the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda campaign, and to ensure that Bubu still makes sense in today's economy. Now, the platform will provide customers with opportunities to learn about production processes as well as join the fight against counterfeit goods on the Ugandan market. And the Uganda Manufacturers Association, that is UMA, promotes agricultural products. It will also aim at training farmers in value addition as well as agro-processing. Now, this year's trade fair celebrates the pivotal role that UMA has played in shaping the nation's industrial landscape for 3 decades. That is 30 years of industrial excellence and existence. Well, as we're summing up with our business update this morning, we now look at the forex markets. This is courtesy of the central bank, to see how various currencies have been faring on the exchange. By closing time yesterday, the US dollar was buying at 3,722.86, while selling at 3,732. And the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,885.13, while selling at 4,898.2. And then the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,885.13, while selling at 4,898.25. The euro was buying at 4,116.73, while selling at 4,127.79. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 28.91, while selling at 28.99. And the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.36, while selling at 1.36 and 1.37. Then the South African rand was buying at 208.17, while selling at 208.73. And well, that does it for our business update this morning. I'll be back tomorrow for more business. Olive Monica Najuma is here with the traffic updates. Good morning.
It's the 4th of September 2024. Fresh new day, fresh start. And now we look at the roads and see how we can maneuver from one place to another. My name is Olive Monica Najuma with the traffic updates. And we start right in Kasubi, where we have the intersection of Kawala Road, Chimera Road, Masiro Road, and Hoima Road. Would like to follow this route into Nakulabye and Bakuli to see how the traffic situation is looking like in this part of town. Now, just after the intersection around Masiro Road, you will experience a bit of traffic jam as you head to the areas of Nakulabye. But the good news is that at first there is a big stretch where you will encounter smooth flow of traffic. But still on the same route, we are now experiencing traffic jam as we get into the environs of Nakulabye. And unfortunately, before the traffic lights right around the market area, you're going to encounter intense traffic jam. Now, for those heading to Makere Hill Road, I see that there is a bit of traffic jam heading that side of town. And then those those coming in from Balintuma Road, joining Hoima Road and going Makere Hill Road or going Kasubi side, you will encounter a bit of traffic jam right at this juncture. Now, continuing with Hoima Road to the ends of Bakuli, I see that as we cross through into Chadondo Road, at this intersection, you will encounter traffic jam. Now, continuing with Hoima Road, still, we have smooth flow of traffic up until the intersection that has Namirembe Road and, of course, Albert Cook Road. Now, here, you will still encounter smooth flow of traffic. If you're to follow Namirembe Road up until where it joins Rubaga Road, you will still encounter smooth flow of traffic. Now, I'd like for us to go back and look at Namirembe Road and Fort Road and see how that looks like. And for now, there is a bit of traffic jam that is starting to build up, especially where Fort Road joins Old Kampala Road. Now, going to the stretch of Old Kampala up until where it connects to Namirembe Road, we will experience some bit of traffic jam over there. But Rubaga Road looks like it is a whole red zone, so you should be advised as you move that side. And then Mwanga 2 Road has a bit of traffic jam, but when you continue with it, you will encounter a smooth flow of traffic up until you reach Kafumbe Mukasa Road. Well, we will end our traffic updates right at this juncture, and I'll be back tomorrow to share the same. Enjoy, and Good Morning Uganda continues.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
You can now get all the chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret? Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM? Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk. No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving. Juko. I thought I was one of your friends. You are. But you left me behind. I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Welcome back to The Uplift, where we explore natural solutions for a healthier and happier life. Today, we're delving into natural remedies that can help you improve the quality of your sleep. Now let's dive into the world of better sleep. First, establish a bedtime routine. Create a calming environment to signal to your body that it's time to wind down. Dim the lights, read a book, or listen to soothing music. Taking a warm bath, or practicing gentle yoga stretches. These rituals can help calm your mind and prepare your body for restful sleep. Next, limit your exposure to screens before bed. Our electronic devices emit blue light that can interfere with the production of the sleep hormone melatonin. Try to limit screen time at least an hour before bed. Instead, try reading a physical book or engaging in relaxing activities. Another effective remedy is to incorporate exercise into your daily routine. Physical activity releases endorphins, reduces stress, and promotes restful nights. Just remember to exercise at least a few hours before bedtime to allow your body to cool down. Additionally, be mindful of what you consume before bed. Avoid caffeine, nicotine, and heavy meals close to bedtime, as they can keep you awake. Herbal teas have been used for centuries to promote relaxation and improve sleep. Chamomile, valerian root, and lavender teas are known for their calming properties. Sip on a warm cup about 30 minutes before bedtime to help induce a sense of tranquility. Another classic remedy that many swear by is a warm...
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
You are still watching Good Morning Uganda. It's time for our agenda segment where we normally have topical discussions. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Thank you so much for being a part of this program. Now, the question of land is one that most of us are very conversant with. But how do we approach the question of land to ensure that everyone that is involved in this conversation is well represented, but also that they benefit from land? So we are having a conversation regarding the National Land Coalition campaign, Unlocking Land Potential for Sustainable Development. And I believe that you're wondering, when you say unlocking land potential for sustainable development, what exactly do you mean? I am not the expert on issues land, but I do have experts with me in studio, and we will delve into this conversation shortly. Now, I'm having with me Miss Omodo Jessica, who is the Pelham Uganda Program Officer Advocacy. She's the lady on the extreme left. And I have Mr. Obo Dennis, who is the Public Relations Officer, Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. And the lady right next to me is Dr. Doreen Nancy Kobsinje, who is the Facilitator, National Land Coalition Uganda. And together we will now have a conversation regarding the question of land and how best we can unlock it for sustainable development. Now, I will first of all would like to have a brief, more insight into my guests before we delve into the conversation. And I will go to Miss Jessica at the extreme left. Please tell us about Pelham Uganda.
Thank you so much. A very good morning to you, listeners. My name is Omodo Jessica, Program Officer Advocacy from Participatory Ecological Land Use Management. In short, Pelham Uganda. Pelham Uganda is a network organization that is constituted by around 73 member organizations or civil society organizations, and we are been in existence from 1995. It's important to note that the core of participatory ecological land use management is sustainable natural resource management, where land is implied. We have agroecological business skills development, and we have policy advocacy. We know for a fact that Uganda rides on agricultural sector or agricultural program, which is one of the highest employer of Uganda's citizenry. I am sure, like the viewers know, it employs over 75% of Uganda's population, majority of whom are women, who do a lot in the productivity, whereas our men come handy in the marketing and deciding the proceeds. Back to the campaign. Stand for Her Land campaign, Pelham is undertaking, is a partnership with UCOBAC, and this is majorly meant to build the capacity and create awareness among women.
Ms. Jessica, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We will get back to you shortly, but I would like to now bring Dr. Doreen into this. Dr. Doreen, there is a campaign which is Stand for Her Land campaign. Please tell us about it and what it means.
Okay. Like she said, I'm Dr. Doreen. I work for the National Land Coalition as the facilitator. And this campaign, the Stand for Her Land campaign, is implemented by National Land Coalition, but it is coordinated by UCOBAC, and UCOBAC that is in charge of this activity that we have. Stand for Her Land campaign is a global campaign that seeks to strengthen women's land rights. It is happening in Senegal, in Tanzania, in Ethiopia, and Uganda too here. It was launched in 2022, and since then we've been implementing activities that are supposed to help, and projects and programs that are supposed to help women access their land rights, but also strengthen their tenure. Under this campaign, we work, or we seek to improve on a few issues, what I would call our objectives. And one of the issues is to see that we try to close the gap between the nice laws that we have in Uganda. Just as a reminder, the laws that we have on land are not discriminatory in a way. They work for both men and women, but the problem comes with the implementation, where we are seeing a gap between these good laws and how actually they are implemented. But also the campaign seeks to try to transform social norms that are discriminatory in nature. We have seen that because of our patriarchy system, because of these practices that deny women to enjoy the same land rights as men, and those are the ones that we seek to transform as a campaign. We also want to see that women have improved access to land justice. You know, it's very easy for a woman's land rights to be violated or to be neglected just because they cannot access these structures, these institutions that help them to get justice if a conflict happens. As we know, land is a conflictive resource and conflicts are bound to happen, but women are affected in a different way when they have this land conflict and they cannot take it anywhere, or they cannot seek land justice. The other issue that we look at is to try to improve the urgency or the mobilization of women, so that these women are brought to the table where land decisions are made. An example is, as the campaign is going on, we have had trainings through the grassroots academies where women are trained on their land rights, where women are mobilized so that they can speak as groups, so that their voice is heard. We no longer want to see that it is probably the women in the urban centers at the national levels that are making noise about women's land rights, but it has to be this grassroots woman that is being affected when her land is taken away, so that she has a voice to speak, so that she can demand for her land rights. Then the other thing that the campaign seeks to is to see that we improve, or we advocate for increased funding to the land sector. And this is the topic that we are discussing now. And as a campaign that is dealing with women's land rights, our question further goes down to what is the percentage of this budget allocation that goes to women's land rights, that helps women to secure their land rights.
Well, that is a pertinent question, and representing the government under the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development is Mr. Obo Dennis. Mr. Obo, here Dr. Doreen did really ask a pertinent question when it comes to budget allocation, the national budget allocation, when it comes to land and the land rights for women. What would you have to say about that?
Well, thank you. Good morning, listeners. As I said, my name is Dennis Obo, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Lands. The issue of women land rights is a very complicated concern. If we do not address it, we are not going to move towards sustainable development. That's a fact. Why do I say so? The decisions on who works on land, it is actually the women who work on land, who dig, who weed, who produce the food. What equipment are they using? Rudimentary equipment, and that alone limits their productivity. So from our side, we look at a number of key things. There are many, but we pick out just a few because step by step, then we shall make progress. One, these women that are working on land, it's important that one, they are the registered owners of this land, or at least co-owners. It is difficult to increase the productivity of someone who is working on something that does not belong to him. So a first step, get ownership, be known that you are the owner so that you can take decisions on the land you use, what to plant, what to use, what other services to bring in. Now, that is part of the empowerment process. Two is that there are those who do not know where to go for these services. You know, the services are very far. The country has put in place a legal system where you can provide services, land services, at the sub-county level, closer to the women. Women do not like things that have long distances. They usually drop out, or they'll send their men, their brothers, their fathers, their uncles. But if you want to get them, then take services closer to them. So if you look through the 4 tenure systems that we have, one that would befit women, that is flexible, that does not require lawyers, is the customary. The customary is very good, it's flexible, but many people do not know about it and how to approach it. And because we live in an environment where our culture is still, it has the negative effects, it actually sort of stops them from coming for these services. So what are we looking at? 1, give women documentation. 2, sensitize them. 3, show them the procedures of what to do. Give them the fees, the knowledge and the fees they have to pay, which is little, between 10 and 15,000 shillings. Help them to get to these services at the sub-counties. Most of them up-country are illiterate or semi-literate. So help them to fill these forms. These are the practical things that we need to do other than looking at that big bundle of what is called land rights. Once the registration is done, in a way, it automatically increases their productivity, their willingness to work, to invest, to take decisions, to stop planting vegetables and plant coffee. You see, that is a change because you know you have a title, it is yours. Nobody is going to take it away from you, and government is guaranteeing your ownership. So small things we have to do to make sure that we actually reach our destination of sustainable development. When it comes to budget, definitely all these things will require budget.
Yes.
And government of Uganda, the budget they give us is less than 1%.
That's budget given for what exactly?
To work on the land sector.
The entire land sector is given 1%.
Less than 1% of the national budget.
I'm trying to understand how we have a 70+ trillion budget and 1% is given.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%, yes. So we have decided not to complain because, you know, if you complain, then you'll never reach the goal. What we've decided to do is get into partnerships.
Yes.
And these partners of ours, we love them. They are very good. They have helped us. They've helped government. We thank you. Not only this, there are many. They have come in to close that gap which government wouldn't have been able to fix. You know, government has so many things to do, roads, educations. So it doesn't look, land is critical, but it's not that critical as other sectors. But we must move. We must provide funding for government. The land sector generates over 950 billion in revenue from these transactions that we do. And we are saying what we can do for now is that let us do this with partners supporting us. As we generate revenue, maybe as we move, there will be a change of heart and we shall get revenue. But definitely it is important that if we are looking at sustainable development, if you don't address the issue of helping women access land, take decisions, and be able to take charge of the marketing issues and have the monies back into their pockets, then sustainable development may still be a vision away.
Unlocking land potential for sustainable development. That's the conversation we are having this morning. Now, you can join the conversation through WhatsApp number 0709-602-592. You can ask questions, but also you can give suggestions. The panelists I have will be in position to answer you and also give you deep takes regarding some of the questions that you might raise. Now, Miss Jessica, I interrupted you earlier, but I would like for us to continue from where we ended.
Thank you very much. I think it will be very important to share the challenges that women are faced with in realization of the land rights. Most important of all, when you look at the women in the rural setting, the issue of literacy plays a very, very key deterrent to land rights advocacy or land rights pursuit. Women who have not gone to school do not know how to own, how to access, how to utilize and own land. We want to talk about the patriarchy and the customs in the various regions of Uganda. Customarily, there is a prioritization of men's ownership to land. They imagine that women are weaker sex, which is not very correct. Actually, the opposite could be true. We also look at the limited awareness on the Succession Act, where the distribution of economic resources such as land is clearly spelled out. This is a reserve for elite women who are maybe urban-based. So we think that is a very, very big challenge. When you look at accessing finance to land, there is an issue of risk perception. The financial institutions think that it's risky to offer loans, probably for purchase of land to women, because they do not have collateral and they do not have documented land. So that should also be an area we pay focus onto. When you look at the budgeting, it is observed that not so many women attend the national budgeting and planning processes where matters are discussed and the cake is divided. According to the National Budget Framework paper of 22-23, 23-24, but also 24-25, there has been a stagnant allocation to the National Land Commission of only 38 billion. Now therein, you talk about the sensitization of the rural women or the entire citizenry on issues of land rights. You talk about the registration that Mr. Bo is referring to. You talk about the land matters in the courts of law. You talk about arbitration, you talk about compensation on the national economic programs, probably the roads, the water and all that. That is a very lean budget to make sure that the sensitization and actually the implementation of the land policy takes place.
And what I'm hearing from everything, all the challenges that you are mentioning, is that the most affected are rural women. They are the most they are the ones that are left mostly out when it comes to the land cake, if I may call it that, because you did also identify that elite women have face it better as compared to the women in the rural areas.
You realize that there is an economic or financial dependence on men for the rural woman.
Yes.
So you can just take an example of a woman requiring to buy a piece of soap or a tablet of a bar of soap, a kilo of sugar. They have to refer to the man. Now, if you want to register the land, how much more are you going to get from this man who is already also probably struggling financially? So you realize that it's not compared to the elite women in the urban center who can buy, who can register their land, who can walk to a lawyer. If they want legal representation in the courts of law, they have the financial muscle. This is different within the rural setup. So we're thinking a lot more focus be put on the rural women to ensure that they equally realize and can enjoy their rights to land, because you know for a fact that, like Mr. Bo stated, women are the key factors of production. And for us to be able to arrive at the middle income status, as per the Vision 2040, we must have to produce, and we must produce sustainably. How are we going to produce sustainably? You can only be sure to perennially produce on a land you own, on a land you have documentation on a land you can access as and when you deem fit. This is different from having land just because you're attached to a man. There is something we also need to talk about. Communally or customarily, taking the 4 tenure systems of land in Uganda, that's the freehold, leasehold, the Milo, and the customary. Back at the rural setting, on the typical woman we're advocating for, land can only be owned, land can only be accessed if you are married. Now, the challenge is when the marriage goes stale, you're sent packing and you cannot pack with the land. Also, on a worst case scenario, if you're not in an understanding with the so-called man, you may not decide what to produce. Annually, there is what we call the agroecological zoning of commodities. Every region is given a heads up on what to produce. But as a woman, you don't have that right. For instance, if they say coffee is the in thing today, we're going to grow vanilla, we're going to do horticultural production, and the man is not in agreement, the woman is left in a burden. So those are the challenges we're battling with, and we're calling upon the concerted effort of the government and all other stakeholders, and the social media. You play a very, very key role in making this known to everyone in Uganda that it is very, very pertinent to ensure that the smallholder farmers, and particularly women, realize and enjoy their land rights so that we together contribute to the sustainable development of this country through agricultural production and productivity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jessica. Now, Dr. Doreen, her land campaign. And Ms. Jessica has really put clearly the challenges that women, especially those in rural areas, are facing when it comes to land rights. And it's rather sad that to this day, in 2024, one must own land if they are married. So what happens to our unmarried sisters? And they are supposed to also own land, and they are viable candidates to own pieces of land. So with her land campaign, how exactly or what strategies have been put in place to address the challenges that Ms. Jessica has put forward?
Okay. Let me start by saying, not only when a woman is married, but the issue is the mere relations that the woman has in her life. You can access the land through your brother, you can access the land through your husband, and you can access the land through your father.
But so the core is that you're at the mercy of men.
So if you do not have a good relationship with this man in your life, let it be a brother, a father, or a husband, then your land rights are at stake. They can easily ask you to move off the land. Now, the major issue that it is in our country also, I talked about the good laws that we have and the implementation that is poor, or the implementation that is lacking. And Mr. Obo here has attested to that. And our question that as the campaign that we look out for is, what is stopping the implementation of these good laws? Is it the funds that we've talked about? He has talked about less than 1% of the budget going to the land sector. Yet the land sector is very important. The land sector plays a facilitative role. Everything else is done on land or above land. And if we have that in mind, then we can give the importance that is due to the land sector, so that we bring in money to the land sector to build capacity, do trainings for the people that are in these institutions and structures that are supposed to help women, in this case, or smallholder farmers, access and secure their land rights. Now, apart from the capacity and apart from the funding, how is the sensitization? You know, for a woman, it would be that she knows her land rights and then she can demand for them. You can look at the scenario. Jessica has talked about the Succession Amendment Act that was recently passed in 2002. And the question is, do women know what is in that act? For example, it talks about issues of inheritance of land. And it was amended to put in place that both a girl or a boy, that is a son or a daughter, a male or female, can inherit land from their, it could be parents, it could be their
guardian.
Yes, guardians, as it wasn't before. Before it would say only the male too. So that is the sensitization also the campaign seeks to do, so that women are empowered from, you know, a person that is informed is a person that is empowered. If a woman as a widow knows that I cannot easily be taken off this land because I have my rights as espoused to this man that has passed on, then they can go and seek
legal redress.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Doreen, there is another aspect. In Buganda here, we normally say when you get married, that's your home. And in case you're given land there, that is what you rightfully own. Now, as a daughter, when you're given a piece of land at your parents' home, and or maybe brother, whoever the male in your life is, but not your husband, and then there is always the fear of my children cannot ever own this because it's like you're a squatter on this land. Are you addressing that too, where women should not be chased off the land because the person or the relative who gave it to you is now gone?
Okay, I can even start. We have seen from practice that women have turned out better managers of land.
Yes.
We have seen land that has been secured because it has been left in the hands of women, despite the boys or despite the males that people talk about, and who immediately sell off these properties if the person is deceased or not. So that is the mindset that we want to change and to transform the social norms that we talk about. What does it mean? Why do you think that this woman is not going to manage the land well? And if she inherits this land, why are you still scared that she will leave this land to her children?
But
because
if you've given it to her, shouldn't it be okay for her to leave it to her children,
Exactly.
even if they belong to another family?
That is the issue. Why do you want her to just be a user and someone who cannot make a decision? And the decision could be to transfer this land to the younger generation, like her descendants, also to go to the market and sell this land, or do anything like growing coffee, the perennial crops that we are talking about.
Now, Dr. Doreen, I have a comment coming here. Unfortunately, you didn't leave your name, but you can join this conversation through WhatsApp number 0709602592. Please leave your name and where you're texting from so that we understand and know where you're coming from. But I have an interesting comment here. It says, the emancipation of women is meant to deprive men's rights, which is against our cultural values and norms. Traditionally, daughters do not inherit land but can be given other property like cows for all commercial houses. Miss Jessica is burning to answer that.
Thank you very much. That's an interesting one indeed, and I'm sure it's coming from our male species.
Yes, I can see it's a man.
So you can, we can refer to our Succession Act as amended, which clearly stipulates how these resources should be distributed, especially if the deceased left a will. By policy or by law, this is how it is distributed. 75% of the property is distributed across the children. It doesn't specify whether female or male. So I would like my brother to understand that the children in this context is both the girl and the boy. So whether there is property in form of houses, there is property in form of funds in the bank account or land, this is how it should be. The women in the man's life, like my sister Doreen quotes, have to take 15%. So the 15%
this includes wives.
This includes wives, whatever, the registered.
Sisters, in case they're in the will.
No, wives or spouses.
Wives, spouses, yes.
So where our men again come handy running for the deceased property in the name of heir, it is 1% by law. But customarily, there is a very, very big gap between the practice and the law or the policy. Whereas the law talks about 1% for the heir, a greedy heir might think that they own the whole estate. They want the house, they want the land, they want the car, they want...
Actually, that's what it used to be.
So we just have to understand the difference between the practice and the law, and try as much as possible to live in tandem with the law. Because if you took on the property of an elite widow, you might be up for grabs in Luzira. So you just have to carefully trade on whose land or whose property you want to trade on. There is one key, so the 75, the 15, and the 1%, you have a balance of 9 to make the 100 of the estate. That goes to the dependents. Again, it does not specify what sex of the dependent. If the late or the deceased had female and male descendants, this property, which is 9%, is given equitably to the dependents. So unless we understand the laws and policies that govern land,